The chill of a New England November had settled deep into the bones of the city. Outside the library's large arched windows, the surface of the reflecting pool was skimmed with a brittle layer of morning ice. A single black backpack was sinking into the murky water at its center. From the warmth of the study hall, surrounded by the hum of the heating vents, I made my demand. "Lucas, go get it." The boy kneeling on the polished floor before me lifted his gaze. His eyes were the color of a winter sea, impossible to read. "You don't want to spend the night in there with it, do you?" A long moment passed. "'Kay," he finally said, his voice low. He pushed himself up. His faded academy sweater was too thin for the weather. I watched him walk out, his shoulders set. The other students kept their heads down, fingers tapping silently on laptops. No one moved to follow. My family's name was on half the buildings of this private school. My mother's indulgence was a well-known fact. The sound of splintering ice and a heavy splash echoed faintly through the window. People flinched but didn't look up. I watched Lucas struggle through the frigid water, his movements growing sluggish. The system in my mind offered its usual cheerful praise. Excellent. This kind of humiliation builds the perfect contrast. Let his resentment simmer. He finally emerged, dripping and shivering, the ruined backpack in his hand. He left a trail of dark water across the expensive carpet as he returned. A wave of cold air followed him in. "Mr. Chase." He presented the soggy bag. Water pattered onto the floor. I made a show of wrinkling my nose. "It's disgusting. I don't want it. You keep it." I waved a dismissive hand. "And you're soaked. Don't sit anywhere near me today." A girl with close-cropped blonde hair finally spoke up, her voice tight with anger. "You think your family's money lets you treat people like this? It's too much, Eli." I just smiled and turned to Lucas, who stood pale and trembling, his lips tinged blue. "Lucas, am I bullying you?" He didn't meet my eyes. "No. See?" I gave the girl a triumphant look. She stormed back to her seat. "System, is that enough for today's objective?" "It is," the cheerful voice confirmed. "Now you may begin the illness protocol." It was almost a relief. A familiar fire ignited behind my eyes, my thoughts dissolving into thick syrup. The last thing I registered was someone calling my name, a voice laced with what sounded like genuine panic. I woke in the private wing of a hospital I knew too well. The room was silent except for the beep of monitors. "How long?" 3 days, host. "Your periods of unconsciousness are lengthening." The door opened and my mother, Eleanor, hurried in. Her designer clothes rumpled, dark circles under her eyes. She asked if I was in pain, her voice trembling. To reassure her, I swung my legs out and took a few hopping steps on the cold floor. "See? Perfectly fine." She turned away quickly, but not before I saw her wipe at her cheeks. She murmured an apology for failing to give me a strong body, for the genetics that kept me tethered to this place. The Chase fortune was the only thing keeping me alive, a fact that granted me infinite, guilt-ridden latitude. After she left to take a call, my brother Caleb arrived. He wasn't alone. He pushed a battered-looking Lucas into the room. Lucas's face was bruised, his clothes still the same from days ago. "Eli, look who I found." "The one who gave you that chill," Caleb announced, his voice cold. He forced Lucas to his knees. "I've been having a talk with him." Lucas refused to look at me, his jaw clenched. I slid from the bed, affecting a weak cough with every step. I stopped in front of him, then placed the sole of my slipper on his shoulder, applying pressure until he grunted in pain. "Lucas," I whispered, leaning down, "why don't you be my dog? Otherwise, I can't promise what my brother might do." I was the spoiled, sick prince. The world had to bend. Lucas had swum in an icy pond and was fine. I caught a draft and burned for 3 days. When my mother insisted I be homeschooled, I had to beg and promise, holding up my fingers in a childish vow, to be allowed back. The narrative demanded it. At school, my commands became more petty, more constant. Fetch this, do that, eat this lunch I don't want. He complied without a word, a silent shadow. I told myself it was fear of further reprisal. But sometimes, his gaze would settle on me, dark and impenetrable, and a strange chill would creep up my spine. Once, I kicked out at him in irritation. He caught my ankle, his callous thumb brushing against the skin above my sock. A slow, deliberate stroke. He released me gently, murmuring an apology. My face flamed with a confusing heat. I decided to ignore him for a few days. I was tired. During a history lecture, a new student walked in. He introduced himself as Jackson Reed. He had a wildness to his features, a confident swagger that didn't match the script in my head. He walked straight to the empty seat beside me and asked if it was taken. System, what is this? He's not due until next year. The system stuttered. Clerical error. A colleague was distracted. I told Jackson the seat was occupied in my most bored tone. He just smiled, a bright sunbeam of a smile, and took the desk in front of me instead. At break, he turned around, resting his chin on his hands. He asked if I could show him around. I refused flatly. Undeterred, he picked up my empty water bottle and filled it from the fountain. My pleasure, little prince, he said, setting it down. Maybe slap him? The system suggested unhelpfully. Before I could retort, a heavy kick connected with Jackson's chair, nearly sending him to the floor. Lucas, who had just returned, adjusted his glasses. Slipped, he said, without a trace of apology. An electric tension crackled between them, invisible to everyone but me. The annual track meet was the next major event. Lucas was running the long-distance race for the $2,000 prize. His need for it was acute. My role was clear: sabotage. I had his only decent running shoes taken and tossed in a dumpster. The plan was for him to come to me, desperate, so I could magnanimously offer a replacement. But Jackson intervened. He saw Lucas standing on the track in worn sneakers and simply offered his own. We wear the same size, he said, with that infuriating, righteous smile. After Lucas sprinted away to win, Jackson turned his sunshine on me, now sharp as a laser. He warned me to stop, threatened to report me. He called me petty, cruel, and selfish. No one talked to me like that. I coldly informed him that since he'd invited my attention, he would now receive it. Later, Lucas brought his first-place trophy to my desk in a silent, crowded homeroom. The system had been narrating his run, the powerful, healthy body I would never have. A hot, jealous shame flooded me. I swept the trophy off the table. It hit the floor, a chunk of crystal breaking off. You're just a dog I keep, I hissed. Don't flaunt your victories in front of me. The room went dead quiet. Lucas knelt, gathered the pieces, and dropped them into the trash without a word. System, are we ready for the equipment shed? All personnel are in position. The plan was simple. Lure both Lucas and Jackson into the locked shed overnight. The cold would force them together, kindling the required bond. I went home to my canopy bed, satisfied. The system would ensure nothing went wrong. It reported back the next morning, its tone strained. They were in close proximity all night. Very close. Fist-to-face close. But there was contact. Counts. Both returned to class late, sporting fresh bruises, but said nothing about the night. I smirked at Jackson between classes. How was the shed? Cozy? He glared. You did that. Consider it A. The next time you interfere, it will be worse. He leaned in, his eyes blazing with a fervor that unsettled me. I'll always interfere. His business is my business. I relayed this triumph to the system, but it responded with devastating news. The plot was accelerating, but Lucas's hatred meter had reset to 0. All my work undone. Jackson's disruptive light had apparently washed it all away. Desperation took hold. On the secluded, camera-blind landing leading to the roof access, I had Lucas kneel. I sat on his folded jacket. You thought you were free? I murmured, hooking a finger under his chin. You'll be my dog forever, Lucas. To disgust him, to provoke the hatred I needed, I pressed my lips to his. They were cool. I expected revulsion. Instead, he went very still. Then I felt a sharp, quick bite on my lower lip. I slapped him. Bad dog. He slumped, his head bowed, but I saw his shoulders tremble. Not with sobs, but with something else. A coiled energy. System, is this working? He definitely hates you, it assured me, though it sounded uncertain. My next move was reckless. I had him drugged and brought to the soundproofed basement of the Chase estate. Tied to a chair, I taunted him. I traced the lines of muscles defined beneath his thin shirt. I ranted about my jealousy, my frail body, my resentment of his health and his stupid, handsome face. What if I just took you right here? I whispered, straddling his lap. No one would ever know. He threw his head back, eyes closed, a low sound in his throat. Taking his silence as surrender, I kissed him again. This time, he responded instantly, his mouth capturing mine, fierce and hungry. I broke away, shocked, and slapped him again. His eyes were dark pools of want. I'll be good, he rasped, his voice ragged. Please, master, don't discard me. The rope, I would later learn from a mortified system, had been sawed through long before with a blade from his shoe. He had chosen to stay. He had chosen to let the drug take effect. He had chosen to wait. When his hands finally closed around my waist, I was powerless. The night became a blur of sensation and system-generated static. Why is it all pixels? The system wailed.
Imanai.
I want the director's cut. I woke in the hospital. Again. Every muscle screamed. The system, reviewing footage, pointed out the hidden blade. Lucas had watched me drug him. He had allowed everything. Your male lead is unconventional, I groaned. Unconventional? He's a full-blown obsessive. Look at these marks. Jackson visited, bearing flowers. His cheerful mask slipped the moment the door closed behind him. His eyes, hungry and wrong, roamed over me, catching on the bruises Lucas had left on my neck. He lost all composure, babbling about being a puppet, forced to spout lines to get near me, seething with jealousy every time I rewarded Lucas with my attention. He grabbed my hand, pressed it to his face. Hit me. Pick me. I'll be better. The shock was too much. My treacherous heart stuttered, and the world faded. When I surfaced, the system was solemn. It's time. The plot is irreparable. We need a dramatic exit. The body was failing anyway. After that night, it was a plausible end. I typed final messages to Eleanor, to Caleb.
I'm sorry.
I love you. Take care of each other. My finger hovered over Lucas's name. I left it blank. Then I let go. The piece of my own world was a bomb. I was just a guy with a decent degree, enjoying the quiet freedom of a life without plot devices. I'd think of that other mother's love sometimes, and push the memory away. I wondered, idly, if Lucas and Jackson had found their happy ending. For years passed. Then the system screeched back into my mind one afternoon. Frantic. He found a way. The world merged. He's gone mad. Run. A deep, familiar voice spoke from directly behind me, freezing the blood in my veins. Found you, master. Lucas stood there, draped in a tailored charcoal suit, every inch the powerful executive. 10 years had carved his youth into something harder, sharper. He looked me over in my college sweatshirt and jeans, a slow smile touching his lips. It's really you. He pulled me into an embrace so tight it stole my breath, burying his face in my neck. I searched for so long. I missed you. He took me to a sprawling modern villa, explaining how the worlds had bled together after my departure, how he'd hunted down the system, uncovered the truth. Jackson, he mentioned offhandedly, had been relocated to an agricultural development project abroad. Permanently, he showed me every room of the house he'd built, his voice tender. The sunken bath, the kitchen with its view of the cliffs, a room with floor-to-ceiling mirrors. My mind supplied unwelcome images. I stammered that I had my own place, a tiny studio apartment. Of course, he said, his eyes never leaving me. I respect your independence. But stay tonight? Just to talk. I've missed you so much. I agreed. The villa was breathtaking. And the Lucas who made me dinner, who listened intently to stories of my boring life, seemed unchanged. The same loyal, intense presence from the academy. I woke to the soft chime of metal. Fine linked chains, elegant but unbreakable, were secured around my wrists and ankles, tethering me to the enormous bed. He entered with a breakfast tray, feeding me meticulously, wiping my mouth with a cloth. He asked if I was satisfied. When I nodded, his smile turned predatory. Good. Now it's my turn. He leaned close, his breath warm on my ear. You promised we'd be together forever. You broke that promise. How should I punish you? The next 72 hours were a lesson in relentless devotion. He was everywhere, worshiping and claiming in equal measure. When he finally, reluctantly, unchained me and offered to drive me home, I simply crossed my arms. I'm not going anywhere. That studio is a dump. He tried to hide his dizzying relief. Later, curled together in the quiet, I asked the question that had haunted me. After everything I did, why? He laced his fingers through mine. I knew why you did it. Because you liked me. It was always me. Only me. He said it with a quiet, absolute certainty. For you, I'd accept anything. The system showed me the rest one final time. The grief of the Chase family, their wrath. Lucas, battered and silent, cradling my lifeless form, his world shattered. His long, grim climb to power, fueled by the faint hope the system offered. The years of searching, the tears he shed alone, which he never allowed me to see now. My own mother had chosen herself. Lucas chose me with a terrifying, unwavering totality. That night, I felt him stir from a nightmare, his arms locking around me in a panic. Eli, don't go. I turned in his embrace and kissed him, softly, purposefully. Promise. I'm not going anywhere, Lucas. I'm here. Really? Really. I'm done running. He held me tighter, a shudder of release passing through him. Swear it. I swear. Cross my heart. A slow, real smile, the first unguarded one-eyed scene since his return, spread across his face. He believed me, and for the first time in any world, I felt truly irrevocably home.